Okay guys, when we're looking at naming triangles, in your notes it'll tell you that one way in which we label and identify triangles is by putting a capital letter at each point of the triangle. Now, we do this not just because we find it fun, but it's actually used to identify. So if I wanted to talk about this side of the triangle here, I can talk about side AB. So I take this here and this here. And if I were to talk about this side of the triangle, I can talk about side AB. Whereas, if I wanted to talk about this side of the triangle down the bottom, I'd talk about side CB or side BC. Basically, the only reason why we put these capital letters at each point or vertex of the triangle is so that we're able to identify it easily. Now, when you're asked to name a triangle, all you guys need to do is draw a little symbol here for a triangle. We don't need to write out triangle. And then we start at any point, and you can work clockwise or anti-clockwise. I usually like to start to work at the top. So I will call this triangle A, A, B, C. Alternatively, you could call it triangle B, A, C. So you could start at this point here and work the other way around. It doesn't matter, guys, just as long as you work either clockwise or anti-clockwise and you remain consistent. So when you're asked to name a triangle, all you need to do is draw the little triangle symbol and write the letters A, B or C. It's a good practice to usually start at the top of the triangle, and I like to work around clockwise. So like the first example, triangle ABC. Now, okay guys, when a question asks you to classify a triangle by its angles, what it's asking you to do is it's asking you to look to the angles on the triangle and see what type they are. Now, a triangle can have three different types of angles. They're either right-angled, acute-angled, or obtuse-angled triangles. Now, if you look back at your notes, you'll notice that right-angled triangles has one of its angles equal to 90 degrees. So our first example here is a right-angled triangle. Sorry, that was a bit bad writing, but you get the point. Right-angled triangles. Now, it's a right-angled triangle. We can tell this from the diagram because we've got this little box in this corner. Now, what that box is it's representative of that angle being equal to 90 degrees. So right-angled triangles are triangles with one angle being equal to 90 degrees. Now, another type of angle we can have in our triangles are acute angles. An acute angled triangle has all angles smaller than 90 degrees. So if we look at our second example here, we can tell that this is an acute angled triangle. How can we tell this? When we look at the picture, we look at this angle here, and this angle here, and we can tell that these are smaller than 90 degrees, because if I was to draw in a 90-degree line, we can tell this angle is smaller than 90 degrees. So I would classify that triangle as an acute angled triangle. Now finally, the last type of triangle angle is obtuse. Obtuse angled triangles have one angle greater than 90 degrees. So this last example, we can look here, that's clearly smaller than 90 degrees. We can look here, that's clearly smaller than 90 degrees. Is this an acute angled triangle? No, because when we look at this final angle here, it's clear that this is greater than 90 degrees. So it's called an obtuse angled triangle. So if a question asks you to classify a triangle based on its angles, it's asking whether or not it's a right-angled, an acute-angled, or obtuse-angled triangle. It's getting you to look at the angles and see what type of angles are on this triangle. Okay guys, when you're being asked to classify a triangle by its sides, it can either be classified as an equilateral, an isosceles, or a scalene triangle. Now, when we're looking at these things, guys, we're looking at, yes, its sides, but we're also looking at its angles as well, because that'll help us to determine and confirm just which type of triangle we have. So our first example here is an equilateral triangle. We know this is an equilateral triangle because we've got these funny lines on it. We've got one line on this side one line of this side, and one line on this side. And what they represent is that each sides are equal. So one line on this side, one line on this side, one line on this side, all sides are equal. Now, another characteristic, of equilateral triangles, it has three angles which are equal. This angle here, and this angle here are all equal to 60 degrees. So it's an equilateral triangle. If you look at your notes, all sides are equal, three angles equal to 60 degrees. Now the second type of triangle is an isosceles triangle. It has two sides that are equal. So you'll notice one line on here, one line on here. Both of these sides, this side here and this side here, are equal. Another characteristic of isosceles triangles, that angles opposite equal sides are also equal. So here's our equal side, one on this side, one on this side, and the corresponding angles are also equal. We can tell these by these two little arches. So this is an let's make sure Mr. Corsi spells this right. Isosceles triangle. Now, the third type of triangle is a scalene triangle. Now, no sides are equal in a scalene triangle, and also no angles are equal. So you'll notice in our diagram here, the way in which we represent that is one line on this side, a different number of lines, two lines on this side, and again, three lines on this side. What that helps us to see is that this side here, and this side here are all of different lengths. Again, you'll also notice the same thing happens with the angles. One semicircle or arc here, two arcs here, three arcs here. This means that all sides are unequal, or no sides are equal, tends to be a better way to explain it, and no angles are equal, and that's called a scalene triangle. Okay? The reason why we do these funny little diagrams, so these lines and these arcs, is to help us identify which sides are equal and which sides are unequal, because sometimes it's a little bit hard by just looking at it. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a better understanding of sides, angles, and how to label and classify triangles. The last thing you really need to understand is that triangles can be more of one type. So you'll notice when we were looking at types of angles, or classifying triangles by their angles, acute, right-angled, or obtuse, that sometimes that acute angle diagram that I was showing you is actually an equilateral. And the right-angled one I was showing you is actually a isosceles triangle, And then the obtuse angle triangle is actually a scalene triangle in that diagram. So triangles can be more than one type. So it can be both isosceles or acute and equilateral. It just depends. But there's two ways which you can classify triangles, by their sides or by their angles. So I hope that makes sense to you guys now.